Previously on Pixarspective.
I would say that I didn't enjoy this film. I did enjoy talking about it, and I did enjoy at least somewhat moderating my opinion on it. And due to sunk cost fallacy, I am obviously up for any other Cars movies you boys want to do.
Cars 2.
Oh, we're gonna rip that film apart.
Yes, even Cars 2.
Welcome everyone to Pixarspective 2+10, because I've done this joke 3 times now. This is episode 12, and today's episode is very special. But first, let's we introduce ourselves, because I am the Wash.
I am RandomBystanderHere.
I am Kirby Gremlin.
I don't understand that reference. And
Neither do I.
And
But that is going to be the picture, I'm sure.
And our special guest tonight is returning again.
Special Cars correspondent, CountRancid.
That's your title now.
I gotta tell you, it is both an honor and an extreme shame to be like so specialized of a guest.
We gotta have you for every Cars.
I want to just to give you a little bit of context here, CountRancid. The past few episodes, like after Cars, have been for the three of us like a long walk, like through the countryside with highs and lows, shocking disappointments, and existential crises.
A lot of disagreements too.
A lot of disagreements. And with this episode, and I mean this, and I say this with no disrespect, it's like a bus drops you off where we are, and you say, "Hey, check out that fuck ugly barn," and it's like you don't. It's fuck ugly, but you don't understand what this barn means to us.
I think I know what you mean by that.
I'm gonna pretend that I do.
I'm gonna pretend that I do too. Yes, Wash.
Yes.
That's a nice, ugly barn.
Okay.
I disagree. I think that barn didn't contribute anything to the plot.
Oh, snap. Well, okay, before we get started, because...
this is...
So, let's first do our synopsis.
Synopsis?
Wouldn't our history...
Yeah, we have our history.
Oh my god, we do have history. Oh, good boy.
Yes, and it's funny because it involves all three of us together.
It involves all three of us together. So let's first start with CountRancid. CountRancid, what is your prior experience, let's say, to Cars 2?
Prior to roughly 3 hours ago, I had no experience with Cars 2 whatsoever, other than occasionally being annoyed by the commercials that came out as around that time. Mm-hmm. I saw way too much of Mater as a vampire for comfort. Yeah, that was one clip they really love to play over and over again. But apart from that, I've probably done the most extensive deep dive into the mythology surrounding Cars of any one of us, because you may not know this, guys, but the Pixar wiki is both extensive and meticulously detailed.
Like, the majority of my research is going through the citations of the Pixar wiki. It is a wealth of information.
Like, every single car that appears in this movie, however fleeting, has a bio of some kind.
That is correct, and it's all because of the Cars 2 Blu-ray, which I do not own. But we'll get to that part.
Oh God.
I don't even think it's because of like the Cars 2 Blu-ray. Like, The Incredibles had those fun interview clips that were mostly in which the superheroes were mostly played by Pixar employees. Cars 2 has like I don't know if it's an art book. I couldn't tell because I only ever saw it as a citation. I don't know if it's an art book. I don't know if it's just an official tie-in book. But every single character apparently receives a write-up in this book. And it has some fascinating details. Like, for example, there's like an ancillary character in this movie. His name is Vladimir Trunkov of the Trunkov crime family.
I know which one that is. Yeah,
I know that one too.
And they're a family of quote unquote lemon cars, which we'll get into more.
We'll get into that.
Which are based on I think East German Trabies. There's this fleeting, ever so strange reference to Vladimir Trunkov selling gray market parts behind the iron bumper, which means that there was at one point a car Soviet Union, a car Cold War, and quite possibly a car version of Joseph Stalin.
We have already gone far too deep, and we didn't even get to the plot synopsis, let alone our history into this film. So, which one of you would like to explain our actual history with this? Because there's a lot to get into.
I'll start.
Okay.
I'm not afraid to admit this shame, but we went to see Cars 2 together in theaters.
In fact, this was the first Pixar film we saw as a trio.
Yes, it was.
Tragically.
Yes.
And the fun, you know what's worse? You
liked it?
Yes.
Hey, my hearing aids did not work at the time. So what's your excuse?
I actually have a valid excuse, but I remember we all liked it. We all thought it was... We wound up laughing at some of the jokes, and it was... I don't know why we did. Actually, I do know why we did. Because there was a short before Cars 2 that put us all in a really good mood, especially after the success of Toy Story 3. And that was the Ken and Barbie's Hawaiian Vacation. Pixar was smart and put something really pretty good in right before Cars 2 to make the shit not as shitty. And you know what? It put people in a good mood. I'm pretty sure it's the reason it put us in a good mood. And it made me just go, okay, Cars 2 can't be that bad.
Now, I have a question. Was that the short one of the many short features Tom's sound-alike brother Peter Hanks as Woody?
No, that is an actual, that was actually Tom Hanks himself, I do believe.
Yeah. They actually got the whole original cast.
They got the original cast. I know who you're talking about because he even does the voice acting for the Kingdom Hearts video game. That is a reference just for random.
Someone just referred to Peter as Woody in like a preview, and they said he was a poor substitute. And I just remember thinking, oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, it's a shame.
But then I don't know what it was. I don't know if we discovered all of it individually or if we all watched the film together again.
What happened was the news was already coming in like for us when it was like, oh wait, maybe that movie wasn't so good. And I make, because I'm a big Pixar fan, unfortunately, and I make a point to collect all of the Blu-rays. Like I actually go get all the Blu-rays and DVD packs for all the Pixar films, with the exception of WALL-E, but that one I have the DVD box set. Thank you, Random, for that Christmas gift.
Oh yeah. Too bad it didn't work. That's a different story though.
That's another story. With Cars 2, that was the first one where I said, I don't trust this enough to put the full investment. So I actually went and searched for the Cars 2 DVD, which is so cheap. Like it is so thin with features. I think it was designed just to be a secondary to the Blu-ray. Like in case you're somewhere where you don't have a Blu-ray player. And I know Random and I watched this together. And I had a panic attack.
What?
Do you remember, Random, when we were watching and it was around the 2/3 point where I kept screaming, "This is a Pixar film"?
Oh yes, I remember that. That was scary.
And I was getting like louder and louder, and I was losing my mind. And I'm very sorry for scaring you.
No, I don't even remember being scared. Actually, I think I just blocked it all out of my mind.
I think the three of us did eventually watch it again together, but I don't remember anything about that experience.
I think we all blocked it out of our mind. Kirby fan, you've been kind of quiet.
I just don't. The only thing that I really have to add is that there's one point in the film. I remember I did this in the theater. There's one point in the film where Mater is disguised as a blue truck, and when he goes into the room with all the evil cars, the one car says that his name is J. Kirby Gremlin. And even though it's supposed to be spelt Curby, all I could think was I didn't shout it. But I don't remember if it was Wash or Random, but I grabbed their arm and I went, "That's Kirby!" I have my priorities in check, okay?
You were on brand even 8 years ago.
I vividly remember. That's the one thing about That's pretty much the only thing about the movie that I remembered fully going into it was
you know what? That's good. Kirby. You were spared.
It was that, and there was one particular line that we got a little obsessed with. Like there was one that became like an inside joke for us.
Yeah.
But
should we mention it now or wait till we talk about like the actual movie?
Yeah, but that's when we get to the actual movie. Now,
all right, I got the plot synopsis. You guys ready?
Okay. Kirby, go.
Kirby,
Mater is a secret agent.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
I'm gonna. Okay.
That's it.
Before we get.
That's it.
Before we get into anything like negative, let's go back to our therapy exercise. Everyone in the room has to name one positive thing about the film. I will start. Technology. Boom. The easy one.
You took mine.
That's the easy one. So I'll go next.
Well, I can say like one in particular that I really liked was there was one scene where one of the cars fell onto an inflatable mascot. And I remember, like, when I first saw that in the theaters, like the physics on that was so good. Like, it felt like hyper real. It felt like it was coming like straight in from the video, but it was like really well done simulation. And
those were some good fluid effects.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Kirby, go.
Okay. I'm not even going to mince words with this one. It's not like Cars where I was quiet for a lot of it and then started defending it. This movie's hot garbage. But I don't think that I actually liked it. However, I appreciate the fact that they watched the first movie because Lightning's characterization by the end of the first one carries over into this one, and you can feel almost somewhat that Lightning does actually care for, especially towards the beginning of the film, he cares about Mater, and he does want what's best for Mater, and he does feel bad when he drives Mater away.
Right.
Yeah, if anything, that's probably the big positive. Damn it.
Well, you gotta think of a new one. And remember, it had to be about the film itself. No cheating.
I want to say, but adding on to that, yeah, I will say McQueen is a bit more likable in this film.
Okay.
A bit more likable. That's just adding on to that. That's not my positive. Mm-hmm. Although it can be if I can't think of anything. I will say, Oh dear God.
Come on.
Two things. Although I wouldn't really call the second one a positive. Finn, I will say, I forget the actor's name of who played Finn McMissile.
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine. He did the best he could. That's
Okay.
my positive. He did the best he could.
Okay.
And
Okay.
he's a believable spy, even though, I mean, as believable as a car spy can be. But, the second one, the opening was so laughable,
Yeah.
and it gave me a good laugh.
Oh my god. The funniest part of the entire movie is it's like 10-15 minutes of quote-unquote dramatic car action.
I know.
And then the snap of a finger, so sudden, it cuts to Mater. It gave me whiplash.
Oh, Mater. That's who. Well, now we go to our Cars correspondent. Please, what do you have left?
Oh god, that shot of him just that shot of him just like gradually snaking by on the cables. Like, they had to try so hard to make a car seem stealthy.
Would anybody not just look up and see this?
But that is adding on to what they had said. What is the new positive?
Alright, I will say that this isn't a technology thing, although it could be interpreted as such. I will say that the cars, as always, look kind of generic. Mostly they're rounded shapes, just rounded metal shapes that talk to each other. But some of the environmental design, the set pieces, the buildings that were designed for it, they look quite beautiful.
Oh, yes. That is...
Yeah,
okay.
there's...
I will
agree with
give
you
you that.
there.
Yeah, that doesn't necessarily have to do with technology. That is some pretty good
It
design.
seems a lot of bad Pixar films have great environments. Good dinosaur. Okay. All right.
All right.
So,
Well, now that that's done, we have 57 minutes and 30 seconds to trash this film. Where do we
right.
start?
let's start with the opening. That was laughable garbage. Also, cars die. There's like 5 cars that die in this movie.
I made a note.
The one who falls off the ship and screams as he falls into the ocean and literally explodes. Why did he explode?
I made a note that like the very first car we see in the film, Leland Turbo, who makes like who's trying to sneak in, and then a little later into that intro, we find out that he's been killed, and the way we find out is that they show his crushed corpse in cube form. What the fuck?
I remember when we saw this movie and I brought the point up that cars died, so it should have been... They blatantly died, so it should have been PG. And your counter argument was, well, they're cars. They're not people.
They're very close to people. I mean, like, there's that one death that feels almost sadistic as the camera tracks down. I think it's that poor pacer, that poor hockey stick decal pacer, as he just falls to his death. And he doesn't even explode. It's just very much implied he dies because a bunch of his little undercarriage parts float up to the wall.
Oh, God. Oh, and also, let's not... I know this happens later in the film, but there's also the one who dies by the camera, where you see in the where they like all in all is like evil oil, and it's basically you see in the camera lens how he just bursts into flames.
Well,
That one is specifically hilarious because on screen all you see is Mater. So when the flames start bursting out, it's just Mater and all these flames.
That
so
sums
funny.
up Cars 3 in a nutshell. Mater and flames.
Surrounded by these flames, and he's just, chuckling as always, like, I don't care who you funny, right?
That's funny right there, them flames.
Violent death by immolation, alright.
Fire kind of reminds me of Lightning McQueen.
Oh my god.
When he drives fast, I think, man, that's flame.
This is going to be my favorite episode of all time, before Good Dinosaur.
There's also that surprisingly violent scene where, also in the very stupid, very corny oil rig scene, where Finn is driving up that corkscrew tunnel and he just drops this barrel with an explosive attached to it, and he has to kill 20, 30 cars that are driving up.
Yeah, And they try to make a joke out of it, like the cars are all going up the stairs at the same time, like they're on a highway or something. Haha, funny joke. 20 cars just died.
They're dead.
This movie has a literal, no kidding body count.
Yeah.
There were 2 cars that died via elevator crushing. And we just
and the one's corpse is on screen for a while too.
It's
the body count is higher than The Incredibles.
Honest to God.
honest to God. And here's the thing. Okay, it's a very good moment to bring up Incredible, because an easy argument to make is, well, what was so bad? If you didn't like the action in Cars 2, what was so then why did you like the action in Incredibles? Huh? Explain that. I don't know who would actually make that argument, but there is that argument.
No. I like this. Let's not talk about Cars 2. Let's talk about The Incredibles.
You know what I love about The Incredibles?
You know what I love about any other movie?
Okay, here's something
Let me get started on another 30-minute ramble about why I love The Incredibles so much.
Here's what I specifically love about The Incredibles. You know those explosions? Those explosions tell a story.
Yeah.
Like you know the action connect to the characters. I'm just gonna say this right off the bat. That intro when I was watching it yesterday, that intro was like, okay, all right. And then I remember around the 15-minute mark, I checked. Something inside me felt stressed. I felt really bad watching this film.
Oh my God.
And it did not get any better, with exactly one exception. And we'll get to that point.
I will stress the point that the deaths in The Incredibles do not feel nearly as gratuitous. I mean, most of the superheroes' deaths are just they happen off screen, they're implied, and we see Gazer Beam's skeleton in that cave.
Yeah,
and that's basically it. Like, a couple of henchmen, I think, die in that blade saucer that's chasing Dash.
Yeah. And you know what? Those died because they were specifically, like, one of them, you see them die right after he punches Dash in the face. Like, that guy deserved it, I guess.
And more than anything else, I know Wash kind of brought this up before, that the action and the explosions and stuff had relation to the characters. The deaths in The Incredibles had legitimate weight to them.
Yes.
You could say they had heavy story value, and they absolutely did. But even beyond just for the sake of the story, just as standalone, they're dead.
Yes.
Wow.
Even those deaths that were not for story value and are just like that montage of Edna describing why kinks are a no-no.
That is the closest The Incredibles got to just kind of gratuitous deaths, but that was also the point.
Yeah.
that was cartoonish death.
Yes, it was hilarious.
Yes, it was great. Okay, let's talk about the bad movie now.
Yeah. I know. So I really don't like Flick. Here's why.
Go on.
Okay. I don't think we're really going to be as organized in this Pixarspective. Like, we're not gonna be like, what's the characters like? What's the story like? This part. We're just gonna keep finding things that we don't like about the movie.
And the reason
are we all in favor?
The reason.
So with A Bug's Life, that's kind of what I wanted to do, but I also understand that a lot of people like that movie. Going into it, I figured you two liked it, so I took the backseat. Cars 2, you can probably count on one hand how many people unironically like it. So I am all in favor of just tearing it apart.
Cars 2 is not what you would call sacred.
Exactly.
Cars 2 was my childhood. Why are you saying bad things about it?
I didn't want to count that because it didn't have to do with Cars 2 itself. In fact, it would count as a negative. One of the genuine positives I can give to Cars 2 was that it made me appreciate Cars 1 a lot more than I did.
Oh, yes.
Because it wasn't. It took some part into the movie where I ended up comparing this to Cars and realizing Cars actually got a better handle of plot, of characters, of comedy,
Yes.
I
Cars
did not
comedy
laugh.
in this movie.
I did not laugh a single time in this film, with one exception, and it was for the wrong reason.
I laughed a lot, but it was all for the wrong reason.
I'll be honest. I think one thing I would have to give this movie over Cars is that Cars, you'll remember, I did not exactly like. This movie was too stupid to hate. Like I just saw the opening. I saw the opening spy scene, and I thought, well, I don't care about this. And I'm sorry to your point, Random, but I don't think Sir Michael Caine cared about this either.
I mean, I don't think he cared either. I just said he did the best he could.
He did the best he could, but
Or the best he was paid for, probably.
rare that you see Sir Mike phone in a performance. Like, he'll do bad shit for money. The reason he did, Jaws 4,
I was gonna mention Jaws 4, yeah.
it gave him an extension on his house, and it gave him a beach vacation. This is the one time where I have seen Sir Mike, his performance is sort of the equivalent of a sigh. You just promised me I was going to be here. I was going to record for 5 hours, 1 hour each afternoon after my nap. And it's been over a week now, and you're bloody telling me I'll have to record for the video game on top of it.
Well, Jay, sorry. I guess I just forgot how to count because I'm a stupid idiot.
Wait, labeled Larry the Cable Guy's in this movie? I can't do his accent. I can't be Michael Caine. Oh wait, no, I can't. I got it. I got the Michael Caine.
You have to start by saying Michael Caine, and
Michael
then just,
Caine.
So
and
Mike.
then just
Well, that's a
So
little more
Michael
Australian.
you start off doing a normal Cockney accent, and then you just slow it down.
You slow down the voice ever so slightly. I'm. What's the name of the character? That's the thing. I don't know any of the characters'
Finn
names.
McMissile.
I care. Do I
I
care?
can't believe you're saying that to me.
I don't know Finn whatever his face is. I don't care about. I barely know Holly Shiftwell, but as
Finn Mc
You
whatever
got it
his
exactly
face
right.
is.
yeah, I'm surprised, but only because it sounds like shit, which is what this movie is.
No, I'm still on this. Can we just acknowledge Finn Mc whatever his face is?
I don't.
Finn McDonald.
Game,
Wasn't that one of the jokes? Wasn't that one of the damn jokes that was that with that Mater kept calling him like getting his last name wrong?
no, one of the joke was McQueen, McQueen. That was a dumb joke. That went on for too long, right? Right? Oh, I'm sorry. This audio is gonna peak
that went
so
on
badly.
for 5 seconds and it went on way too long.
Speaking of foreign dignitaries, is the Pope the Popemobile or the Popemobile's limousine?
I was gonna ask that exact question. I have that question written down, and I don't know. And not only that, but when the
Wait, where's
Popemobile
their Cars Pope?
during the race in Italy.
There's the Popemobile, pictured ever so briefly, waving from within his own bulletproof limousine, hey, grazie, bless you all.
During that, I noticed some details on the side because there were forklifts that were clearly dressed as cardinal bishops. And I actually paused the film, went online and looked up about becoming a pope. Cardinal bishops are the people who elect the pope, and they elect among themselves who is the pope. How does a forklift become the Popemobile? What has happened?
So the question is, do they let out white or black exhaust from their pipes when it's time to signal?
That is such a specific joke, and I love it.
I don't understand how this world.
I don't think the creators did either. I think Pixar just wanted to go on a world vacation and just tour Italy, Paris.
That is, you are 100% right. The original pitch for this, from the unnamed director, was that this was going to be a road movie. The original idea was that after Cars, they went on a world tour, on a press tour, and they were looking at all these different countries, and they were thinking, wouldn't it be funny if Mater went through, like, tried to figure out British traffic? Wouldn't it be funny if Mater went on the Paris roundabout? And that was all they got. The spy thing was a deleted scene from the first film where Lightning and Sally went on a date to a drive-in theater, and one of the movies they were going to see was a spy movie. And the unnamed director liked the idea of a spy car. This movie is breaking my mind.
That's all it took is... the one thing I will say Cars is that it was a appreciably grounded movie.
Yes!
Time in small town America, and it makes no attempt to deviate from that.
Yes! And then you morph from that to Secret Agent Car!
And it's the worst morph ever! Because it just happened!
The one possible perk of this would be that you could explore foreign cultures. And I can't speak for England or Paris, which I could probably tell you they're not very accurate. But their portrayal of Japan, oh my god, it's so they fail a lot of the really specifics of the details, but they have a lot of stereotype stuff. Like, they have the traditional folding fan dances, the sumo wrestling, like things that really aren't that big of a deal.
Yes.
But they got this. I could not believe that they did this. Do you remember the scene where there was a tire outside and went to a car that went to a vending machine outside that had a tire?
I wrote that down. I wrote that down, yes.
Wait, what? What did you do? I missed that.
It was like sort of a joke about how Tokyo has vending machines for almost everything and parts.
Yes.
Specifically, this is a thing in Japan. This is what I thought it was a reference to, just because the part of the body that tires are on. In Japan, you could buy underwear at vending machines.
I knew it. I wrote that down. I had that as a question, and it was like, I was hoping that one of you would say, no, it can't be. But the fact that you, Kirby fan, said that to me means that's definitely what happened.
I'm not saying I'm an expert on Japanese culture, because I'm not, but it's the only culture that I really get other than basic US culture. That's what it was. That's definitely what it was a reference to.
The depiction of Japanese culture is...
That was so bad.
It's pretty shallow. It's not only like the ultra stereotypical things like the geisha dancers and the sumo wrestlers, and the rock garden tender, but there's also stuff that is not as big a deal in Japan as they pretend it is in the West, like little tiny hotels and that interminable scene with the robot toilets.
Oh my god,
that was so bad.
That's not only a low point of the film, that's a low point of Pixar.
Yeah. That was the point where I went from, okay, this movie may not be too bad, it's just maybe stupidly entertaining, to, I want to stop watching this. I want to quit the podcast just so I don't have to watch this anymore.
The only thing that they even got, like, remotely right that wasn't a blatant stereotype was when they were in the main hall, the music that was playing, clearly it was Japanese idols.
Okay.
The Japanese love their idols. They will put them everywhere. They don't care. They will put them everywhere.
That is
the only thing. And that was a complete... I'm convinced it was a complete chance that they got that right.
Yeah, I think they just threw in whatever jokes they could get.
You know, license whatever. Just find some quote unquote pop music and just license it, whichever is cheapest. And
what if they actually made J-pop for Cars 2? I hope that's a thing, and I hope that's in the soundtrack.
Well, you know, they do sometimes do like foreign idol songs for domestic Japanese releases of foreign movies. So,
okay.
I'm not going to say it's probable, but I am going to say it's disturbing to think that it is all possible. That the idea of J-pop written specifically for
For Cars 2.
For Cars 2. Did you even notice that, like, at a certain point, I'm just going through my notes, I'm just going completely out of order, but did you notice that at a certain point, like, Mater sings the State Farm jingle?
Yes!
And you know
Why?
what? I looked
Good
up...
neighbor Mater is there. Sorry. Like a good neighbor Mater is there.
I found this out like a little bit into my research. Turned out State Farm sponsored a tour that Pixar did where they made life-size recreations of Mater, Lightning, and Finn McMissile. I almost forgot his name. And,
See, I'm not the only one.
And I guess Pixar needed product placement.
That's called synergy.
And that's a funny reference right there.
All right, I just have one more thing because actually all of my notes were the opening and while they were in Japan. I don't have a single other note here. So I'm only going to bring up one more point. I understand, especially with young women in Japan, bows are popular, or ribbons in the hair are popular because they are cute. Not every single female in Japan wears a bow.
Yeah.
This movie is very...
I mean, again, I can't speak for... I mean, I felt it, but I can't positively speak for Paris or England, but...
Or Italy, too. Don't forget Italy.
Yeah, Italy,
they made some jokes about Italy. I mean, they were making jokes about Italy beforehand.
But just concerning Japan, I'd say racist.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, it's especially hard to depict Mater as like sort of an unwitting, ugly American in these places when he visits, when they're just cartoon lands themselves. Does it ultimately matter if he like eats a bunch of wasabi and then drinks a fountain
and while thinking it's pistachio ice cream?
Man, they didn't even do the rotating sushi bar. They just did some random...
Yeah, it's bad. This doesn't feel like a real place where your actions, if you acted out negatively, would have consequences. So necessarily, Mater's clowning doesn't have any real significance to it. It is just clowning.
That is the
when will you learn that your actions
problem
have
with the
consequences?
entire film. We've hinted at this in previous episodes. Mater is okay as a secondary character. A little goes a long way. He's okay as a secondary character. The huge problem with Mater as a main character is, what is his arc? What is his goal? There was something about like dents, about like how he's proud of his dents. Well, okay, there's no growth then, because he's already okay with himself. There's nothing to work with here.
You gotta remember, Wash. He was okay with himself, but then he wasn't okay with himself.
Because Lightning McQueen...
And then Lightning had to reassure him that he could be okay with himself, and that's why Mater saved the day.
I remember like towards the end of the film where Mater said, I know what needs to be done. And Lightning said, then do it. And Mater said, what? I can't do it.
Oh my god!
I would scream it out, just say the fucking plan.
I was laughing. That made me laugh. That was hysterical.
There was one point where I genuinely laughed, but it was oh my god, what has happened? And I'll just say it right away. When we first saw this in the theater, there was one particular line that was so bad that it became...
Finally, we're bringing this up.
We're finally bringing it up.
It was so bad that it became an inside joke between the three of us for years.
Yes, it still is in a way.
I'm going to take one guess at it. Is it, you've always been the bomb?
Yes!
That's
You knew
the
us.
one. I'm the bomb.
I'm the bomb. No, you're the bomb, Mater.
You are the bomb, Mater.
You always be the bomb.
That was a point where I was broken and I just like cackled. It was horrendous.
I think, oh god, there was a point in this movie I was stupid and decided to watch it at 2 a.m.
I told you not to do that.
Well, do you think I care about Cars 2? I knew I wasn't gonna fall asleep, but I didn't fall asleep. I wish I fell asleep. I didn't, and I just felt like this. I think at the point of the Japanese toilet scene, which is a weird thing to talk about when talking about Cars. That's where I just tuned out. I'm like, I'm done. I want this to be over. When I was constantly checking when this movie was done.
That was the point where it stopped being like stupidly entertaining. That was the point for me when it started entertaining stupid. And I think the distinction is apt.
I like that. I like that a lot. Like we had mentioned it like that like from the action scene and then a hard cut to Mater, like the dialogue was a very specific tone where it started to become clear this isn't a family movie, is it? Like not in the traditional way. This is a children's movie. This is very specifically for the little boys. And fuck you. I know we're screaming about cartoons, but Pixar,
you done goofed.
You done goofed.
I'm gonna.
I will say I fully agree. Don't get me wrong, but I will at least at this point, and this is probably a me thing. I know none of you are going to agree. And when we get to the rankings, this is going to be very hard for me. I feel the same way about A Bug's Life. That's very much my same problem with The Bug's Life. Very little thought went into the plot. It's very much a kid's movie, not a family film. The boys are going to like it more than the girls. But in the case of A Bug's Life, there's a shoehorn girl character, even though she's not in the movie enough to really make the girls happy.
What
I'm saying is Cars 2 is not the only movie that made me this angry.
Oh,
I think the involvement of Joe Ranft, even like in a tiny amount, made all the difference.
I agree with you that I did enjoy Joe Ranft, and it is tragic, rest in peace, that he did not make it. He didn't even make it for the conclusion of Cars because he died while he was still co-directing.
We're not going to mention how because it's both very sad and very ironic. But it's especially hard to see, like, what was it, like the fire engine character, Red? He's just completely silent in this.
I didn't even notice it until I read about it in the Pixar wiki. There's one shot where Red is crying, but he's in the distance and you can't hear him. And I was like, that's what you're gonna give Joe Ranft? I'm like mad.
I think he also, you remember he shoots one of the cars with a hose ever so briefly during the climax of the movie, the action climax. It's just like a jet of water, and then you see him off screen aiming the hose, and it's like, man, between that and crying, like pretty bad send off for Red. I mean, at least they didn't replace him like they did George Carlin.
Oh my God, and George Carlin and Paul Newman died in the same year. I just found out, and nothing. He's just a new voice that tried to do the hippie thing, and I like SARS and Fillmore were some of my favorite parts of Cars. They sucked.
They didn't do anything other than
they didn't.
In fact, none of the characters from Radiator Springs did much other than that one small fighting scene near the climax.
That very forced, very much so. Hey, here's everybody from Radiator Springs. We got to make sure they contribute somewhat. That's very much all that scene was about.
Yeah, pretty much.
It was sad.
One kind of very brief Sarge and Fillmore scene near the end that I thought was like kind of silly but kind of cute, where it's like they're not so different after all. But apart from that,
it would have been better if, I don't know. It would have been better if it was in a different movie.
Yeah, I agree with you on that point. I think it could have worked. It's just by that point, it was way too little.
Yeah, it was
too
way
late.
too late.
I did notice that there was some jokes where it's like, I should be laughing at that, but I hate it.
Yeah, this movie is tiring.
I'm completely bereft of goodwill at this point.
Yeah, honestly, this was so exhausting.
I remember this was actually a funny coincidence. When I watched A Bug's Life, at the 30-minute mark, I had to stop to take laundry out of my dryer, and I got back and I saw and I said, "Oh my god, it's only 30 minutes." Literally the exact same thing happened with Cars 2. I was watching it, my dryer stopped, I took the laundry, I came back, I saw 30 minutes, I went to think, "Oh my god, it's only 30 minutes," and then the deja vu hit.
Yeah.
Speaking of characters and stupid, I guess the opposite of what we praised about Lightning McQueen here is Mater seems to have kind of regressed as a character when he shifted into focus.
Yeah.
He's much more childlike in this version. Like when Lightning and Sally have a date in the previous movie, he was very supportive,
Oh, yeah.
budding romance.
He was extremely-
In this movie,
he was-
he's like a little brother that can't bear to be left alone. Even though
I
they've
noticed
already
that.
had a great day together, he wants to tag along. It's really sad.
Yeah. I know not everybody thinks he's lovable. I'm just going to use that word just to get the point across. He went from being a lovable goof to just obnoxious.
Yeah.
To being a burden.
Yeah.
A burden on everyone, including the spies.
And there was one point where Lightning McQueen kind of yells at Mater. It's justified. It's justified.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess I should be feeling bad for this guy, but when everyone says, like when Finn finally, there's a point where Mater is called upon to act, and he's like, "Oh, well, I can't do that." And Finn says, "Oh, but you've already been acting the fool so well." He's like, "What?" But that's already like the role he's been fulfilling in most of the movies.
I can't believe they used the "oh, you're such a good actor" card. You're telling me to believe that a professional spy throughout the entire movie actually thinks that Mater is not an idiot.
Yeah.
I'm actually supposed to believe this.
Yeah.
Most mistaken identity plots, like misunderstanding plots in general, require a stupid amount of disbelief, but this one really takes the cake. Like,
It really does.
And the thing is, I love that kind of plot. Like movies like North by Northwest or Accidental Spy, well, the Jackie Chan part, not so much the plot, but I love stories about being in an adventure through no fault of your own. Like, just being thrust into it and just having to take it one bit at a time. I love stories like that. I hated this. I hated this.
like speaking of stereotypical Asians, I would also watch like a Mater character go through like a Big Trouble in Little China situation. Like Jack Burton is a good example of an accidental hero. And he's not even really a main hero. Like he remains a dumbass throughout the entire movie. Like all of the main characters are more capable than him. He just happens to be there when most of the action happens. Mater, on the other hand, does he even really achieve any growth by the end of the movie?
No.
Like he seems to have this revelation like, maybe I'm a fucking idiot. Well, of course not, Mater. You're not a fucking idiot. Those other people that are laughing at you for being complete dumbass, they're the idiots. They need to change.
They need to change.
Though, what a great moral. You don't need to change. Other people need to change. Something about the moral specifically. I remember for Cars 1, you had made a joke that a big message about Cars 1 was that, you know, parkways and highway roads are, you know, evil, they're sin, they're what's tearing the world apart. And it was a joke, and, you know, we could work off of that and stuff. But with Cars 2, what we said about other people need to change, not you, is literally what the moral is.
It is. And it's dumb. This movie gave me a headache. I could barely sleep because of this movie.
Like, you can still tell, however heavy-handed the moral of Cars 2 could be at times, you understood that it was symbolic. Like, the highway was the modern world arcing away from Radiator Springs and leaving it behind. This is a very direct moral of, I'm okay, fuck the haters.
Haters gonna hate. That's the moral.
Mater's gonna no, God.
Oh no! Especially because he gets a girlfriend, and it's the worst thing.
I gotta love you, Tristan.
Oh God. Yeah.
I got a girlfriend. Sorry, Lightning. Unlike yours, mine doesn't have a tramp stamp.
Good work.
What'd I say?
It's okay.
I didn't think I was being funny. Maybe I need to wipe my windshields again.
Can I just say the spy characters are just their stereotypes as well?
They're so bad.
They're like Holly Shiftwell is like trying to be like the inexperienced spy, but that's it. She gets more growth than Mater, though.
While we're on the topic of spies, there is a joke that was made in this movie that wasn't funny, but a very similar joke was made in Finding Nemo of all movies, and it was hilarious there.
Okay.
The joke is, did you find the American agent?
Yes.
I think that's him. Is he American? Very. That's the joke, and it's really not funny. In Finding Nemo, when Marlin tells the sharks that the scuba divers took his son away, the one assumes that the scuba diver who stole his child was American. That's hilarious. There's layers to it. Here, it's just someone's acting like an idiot, so haha, Americans are stupid. Jokes need to make sense. I think everybody kind of realizes that no matter your nationality, you're an idiot.
And isn't that the greatest moral of all?
Yeah, I don't need to change, you need to change. You're the idiot.
It's also sort of an example of quote-unquote fantasy cultures intersecting, because there's also, like, the sharks hate the dolphins for being stuck up.
Yeah.
And cars hate lemons for being lemons.
Yeah, I don't get that. Let me just refer to my notes here. There is a character very early on. It's the first scene we see, in fact, is that there is this car who has made it to Radiator Springs, and it's assumed to be like a couple of years because McQueen has already won, quote-unquote, 4 Piston Cups. I believe that's it.
Yeah.
Also, damn.
Yes.
Also, so it's been like 3 years. And there's been this character introduced in between the two films, like Mr. Squeaky. His name is Otis. He's played by Jeff Garlin. And he is a lemon.
Yes.
But, like, his official bio said he's an old jalopy who wasn't quite up to snuff even when he left the factory, and life's been a challenge ever since. And throughout the movie, it sort of hints that in the Cars society, lemons who underperform are seen as, like, akin to having a physical disability.
Yeah.
Some kind of handicap, and there are also entire blood-related crime families of lemons. So is lemonism hereditary, or is it like a birth thing?
I was gonna say lazy, but like further into the film, Mater said Mater like cusses out like, God dang lemons.
He's supposedly so tolerant of lemons.
Supposedly.
Like, then he just like back talks all of them behind their back.
Like, if you're gonna do that, the Mater is a fan of you, no matter what you're made of, then be consistent.
Well, there's something we haven't been talking about, but I don't know if we should. One thing we usually complain about when it comes to Pixar films,
I know where this is going,
is the twist villain. Can I just say, in the movie theater, even when I was thinking this movie was decent, I pointed that twist villain right away. Like, I literally turned to both of them like, that's the twist villain. And I was right!
You know, who would ever suspect a British guy with for being evil.
Yeah, I mean, come on. In a movie about British spies?
I mean, it's not like every single other movie and also most of human history have proved that true.
The only one of the few notes I have about that was there was a point where not Axelrod, his hood is shown, and he has a disguised voice, and the spies are saying try to unscramble. I can't. It's too sophisticated. It's a pitched down British voice. How hard is this? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Also looked like they were using Audacity. At least the monocle villain is
The most
a
obvious
villain
thing.
through and through.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice.
When was the last time we had a straight up villain that wasn't a twist?
Hopper.
Yeah.
No. Last was wouldn't it be Skinner from Ratatouille?
Yeah, okay, I can see that. Yeah, I mean, he's a very bitter man.
If it wasn't Skinner from Ratatouille, it was Syndrome from The Incredibles.
Okay.
It's one of those two, depending on how you want to define villain. You could totally argue that Skinner's not a villain. He's just a really funny antagonist. You could totally argue that point.
I probably would, but I can't argue Syndrome.
And you could argue that Syndrome is a tiny bit of a twist just because you don't realize that Bobby is going to become the villain. I mean, he's miles and leagues better. I'm not doing any sort of defense of Monocle Face.
I also can't help but notice that the majority of lemons depicted in this movie are American, but also a great deal of them Yugos and Zundaps and Trabbies in the Trunkov family. A vast majority of them are Eastern European, so it also appears to be some kind of ethnic bigotry.
Oh no!
There's legitimate. This movie's racist.
Actually, speaking of an earlier question, what car would Stalin be? I'm going to say something like a big snowplow, so he could have a cowcatcher mustache.
I would see him as a train. I can't tell you what kind of train.
Yeah, there was basically no automotive industry in Russia then, so that's a fair.
Yeah. I'm not gonna ask the obvious question about the other dictator, but we're gonna move on.
Yes, let's move on, please.
It doesn't confirm it. It implies that there has to be checks and balances.
What's left?
I don't know.
Okay, this is really would be a nitpick in any other case. And when they were having this sort of documentary bit during the Carl Larry King segment, and they had they're talking about Axelrod going on this trip to the jungle or desert or whatever. There was one particular shot where it's like, oh my god, that is the exact scenery from Up.
It was very clearly Paradise Falls.
And in fact, I reckon
it's recycled.
I recognize the exact shot. I recognize the exact shot that's in because that's the shot where Carl tries to distract Doug with the ball and Kevin with the chocolate, and then they run away. That's the exact spot that they were on. And when I saw that, I had a feeling that in any other case, it's oh, that's a reference. But now I'm thinking, oh, that's lazy.
They try to save money.
I think it was scraping, especially because as I was looking through, it turned out that it was originally going to be released in 2012, but they pushed it back a year. And they pushed it back a year the same year that Paul Newman passed away. And before he had passed away, the unnamed director kept assuring them, Paul Newman is going to be in the film. He's gonna be in there. I'm friends with Paul Newman, and I had a great time with him. Even though Paul Newman was, well, for a lot of reasons, but also he was clearly saying that he was retiring and he didn't want to do any more acting. But the unnamed director would serve it, and then he passed away. And it became an open question, and you know what they did? They put him on a trophy.
Yep.
And they had 2 lines about that.
I can't believe they renamed the Piston Cup after our very own Doc Hudson.
I know Doc said these things were just old cups, but to have someone else win it just didn't feel right, you know?
And then they like roll out of the Doc's old garage, which has been converted to the Doc Hudson Museum, as we see in a sign.
Yeah.
You know who's not in this movie? Chick Hicks.
Yeah.
I remember you, Random, you said when we were talking about Sick Hiss that that he makes an appearance in Cars 2.
Did I?
You put my hopes up.
I thought he did. I thought he was like a host or something. Or maybe that's Cars 3.
That was Cars 3.
Definitely
Damn
Cars
it.
3.
It's Cars 3, he reappears, and at that point he is not voiced by Michael Keaton because Michael Keaton was having a career resurgence with Birdman and said, fuck y'all, I'm out of here.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Well, that's something we can talk about with Cars 3.
Can you blame him, though?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be in Cars 3.
Yeah, I can't.
I wouldn't be in Cars 2. I'd be in Cars 1. I'd be in Cars 1 if I had the opportunity, honestly.
To be honest, I would be too.
I just love the idea that because I'm a big fan of Paul Newman and like I'm a close personal friend of him, and I'm sure I can dissuade him from acting even though he has repeatedly said he's not going to act anymore, A, and B, he is on his deathbed. Monumental hubris.
Yeah, there's monumental hubris from this unknown director.
Hey, I know you're on your deathbed, but can you be in this movie about car spies?
Oh.
What if we just show you exploding on screen? Can you give a quick death scream for me?
Apparently, what had happened was that Doc Hudson was supposed to be a main focus of Cars 2, and it was going to be Doc Hudson was supposed to be a father figure to Lightning and Mater. I have a feeling this was before the spy stuff got put into this, and it was still a road movie.
I think that would have turned out probably better.
And you know what? That is exactly what happened in Cars 3. Cars 3 is about Doc Hudson.
Never mind, it wouldn't have turned out better. I mean,
It turned out better. Come on.
I mean, better than
Not
Cars
much,
2, but not better than Cars.
No.
Oh my god, I just said that. I just said not better than Cars.
Isn't that already like a sort of a plot point in Cars? Is that Doc Hudson, for as irritating as Lightning finds him as first, eventually, and well, they find each other mutually irritating, but doesn't he eventually become like this notable mentor figure, especially after Lightning finds out his own history?
Rancid. When you watch Cars 3, you're going to be saying that a lot. Wasn't that the same in Cars where...
Just wait.
I will take more of the same over this horseshit.
Well, you know what?
That is, yeah.
And that note...
Final thoughts. Who wants to start? How about someone who's been very vocal today? Random.
Oh, yeah. I've been more vocal on this than I thought. This movie... when I first watched it, I thought it was so hilariously bad. I'll think it's like, okay, maybe that'll have that going for it. Even though it's terrible. No. I hated this movie. I hated watching the experience of this movie. I got a headache. I wanted it to end. I was so close to being like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm done with the Pixarspective. Because okay, maybe not that bad, but still.
Ouch.
No, like it's not you. It's It's not you.
It's Pixarspective.
It's not you. It's Cars 2. And just this movie was awful. It was just awful. It's so jarring if you think about it. How Cars 1 goes from this nice movie about slowing down about a Cars movie about slowing down and appreciating life, which they make fun of in the sequel with Francesco. How the fuck did we not talk about Francesco and how much I hated his guts? I'm sorry.
Wow, we didn't bring him up, you're right.
We did not bring up Francesco. I can't tell if it's because we hated him and we blocked out of our minds.
I didn't even write a single note about Francesco. I
completely forgot about him. How did we not talk about him? I'm sorry. Back up the timer. We'll get to my thoughts later.
No. We gotta go.
No.
But since we were discussing the plot, I didn't think to mention him at all because he has no consequence.
Yes.
Yes.
He's just an asshole. That's all he is. Even when there's one moment where you think, oh, he's not an asshole. He actually like saying how much he even understands Lightning missing home. Maybe there is some character. Nope, he's still an asshole through and through. And I hate that. It doesn't have a payoff.
And then suddenly he's somewhat less of a dick by the end, and you're just like, well, no, I've already checked out.
Well, hey, he's not a spy villain.
I'm getting out of the theater. I'm putting on my...
Yes. We're not watching the end credits scene. Bottom line, Cars 2. Didn't like it.
I like
Thank you
that.
for
It's a very good way of summarizing it. So I think
thank
what
you
we're
for the
gonna do
angry nerd reference.
Next is Rancid. What did you think of Cars 2?
I think part of the reason I reacted so vociferously to Cars 1 is that I did want it to be better than I found it. This one was my redheaded stepchild. It's just, I felt, like I said, too stupid to hate. I could just leave it outside in the rain and, shut the drapes and just read a newspaper and it wouldn't bother me.
Oh my god.
I'm probably, like you said, boys, I'm going to be like purging it entirely from my memory palace after this episode ends.
I have a question for you, Rancid. Did it make you appreciate Cars more?
One thing I will say about Cars, no wheel-mounted guns. That's one improvement that Cars has over Cars 2, is that they did not have to figure out how to direct shootout action scenes with cars.
And 99% less car murder.
With the exception of Dream Chick Hicks, if you remember.
There is exactly one dead car in Cars, and he is memorialized in a statue, which I had some questions about, but apparently now I know how cars die. They blow the fuck up.
And it's hilarious.
All right.
Okay, up next will be The Wash. What did you think of Cars 2?
I wanted to say this earlier, but I figured, you know what? I'm gonna save it until the wrap up. Here's my take. This is not a Pixar film.
Oh, I was waiting for this. Oh.
I mentioned this to the two of you like in the year, but I'm finally putting this on tape. I understand your issues with A Bug's Life. A Bug's Life at least had like story connecting to character, and it had that precious indescribable thing called heart.
I disagree, but go on.
I think I'm not just saying this like, oh, this is so bad it doesn't count as a Pixar film. From page one, from function, this is functionally broken. The concept is flawed. It shouldn't have gotten this far. The whole premise of Mater being okay with his dents and then not okay with his dents and then he learns to be okay with his dents is flawed. And it doesn't get any better. A Bug's Life, I was bored. Toy Story 3, I was sad. Ratatouille, I was annoyed. This, I was stressed. Kirby, what do you think about Cars 2?
Powerful stuff. Really powerful.
Yeah, I got nothing so powerful. I already said it. This movie's hot garbage. I agree with all the points that you said. I will, however, refrain from saying anything because I have a lot to say about both films when we get to A Bug's Life versus Cars 2.
I understand.
So, all right. So, before we get our rankings started, I I doubt this is much of a question, but I just want to, hear it straight from the horse's mouth. Since you haven't been watching all of the movies with us, Rancid, I have to ask, which movie do you dislike less? Cars or Cars 2?
Like I said, I'm again. I don't give a shit about Cars 2, but I think I think when discussing the principle of the thing, Cars was at least a love letter, however misguided I thought it may have been, to the experiences that John Lasseter had in his childhood, taking family trips in and around the byways and highways of the American Southwest. Cars 2 clearly had no personal connection to anyone, anywhere, and it's a purely artless piece of shit.
That's a very good point. We've mentioned this a few times before about how racist this is. This is like the shitty tourist idea of a world trip.
This is the filmmaking equivalent of Mater burning his tongue on wasabi. You're just like going places and acting like a dick.
So you like Cars more? That sounds good.
You know what? Cars had ambition. Cars had heart.
It did.
And however, mawkishly it may have delivered on those things, at least it had some kind of emotional response to me. I wasn't counting down the seconds until I could shut it off. I paused this. I went to go get a sandwich, and I came back, and there was just I had it paused on that frame of Mater as a monster truck, and I thought, well, back to this shit, I guess.
You kind of had what a Kirby fan had.
Yeah. So now it is time for the more traditional ending.
Yes.
Where the three of us, I don't think this is going to take very long, but
no.
Where the three of us rank.
And as is tradition, I'm going to start off by bringing up our rankings so far. From the bottom up, A Bug's Life, Ratatouille, Toy Story 3, Toy Story 2, Cars, Toy Story 1, Monsters Incorporated, WALL-E, Up, Finding Nemo, and The Incredibles.
We all have the same bottom.
I feel like Random and I are both racing for who gets to scream no first.
All right. Okay. I'm gonna go 3, 2, 1, go again. When I say go, whoever I hear first, after I say go, whoever I hear first goes first, and they could trash the movie first. Okay.
All right.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
No.
Wash said it first.
Ah.
Random said it with a lot more emotion, but
He
Wash
did.
said it first.
He did.
So, Wash.
All right.
Okay, so you did explain a good amount why you prefer A Bug's Life to Cars 2. So I guess just wrap it all up in a nice little bow.
I mentioned in the first Cars, in the discussion about the first Cars, that I'm kind of simple in terms of comedy. If it makes me laugh, that's good enough for me. A Bug's Life gave me a lot of laughs, and it's part of why I can definitely agree with it being flawed. I don't agree with it being fundamentally flawed, but I can definitely see it being flawed and cliché and boring. I laughed once in Cars 2, and it was for the wrong reason. It was my brain giving up and just letting the id come out. The answer is that finally, A Bug's Life is the superior film. Cars 2 is on the bottom.
And Random?
We gave Bug's Life a lot of shit. It's been our go-to joke whenever we consider the bottom of the barrel. I may have thought Bug's Life was boring, but it did not hurt me to watch it. It was physically painful. Like, I got headaches. I was miserable. And it wasn't because it was 2 in the morning. I watched Monsters, Inc. at 2 in the morning, and it was fantastic. And it's just painful. The story is lackluster. It jumps the shark from Cars 1 to Cars 2 with the plot lines. Again, agree with Wash. Bug's Life made me laugh at points. Did it make me laugh often? Not always. But there were points where it made me laugh.
There were more characters that I enjoyed.
Yes, a lot more characters. And it used its characters a lot more. Granted, they were still kind of one note, but at least they didn't just weren't only in a fight scene. They had moments to show themselves off in A Bug's Life than in Cars 2.
That one note is played beautifully.
The one note is played beautifully, and the designs of the bugs are better than the blandness of some of the cars I've seen here.
Okay.
Wait, no, there's more.
Okay.
There's more. I'm doing an essay. I haven't had to defend Bug's Life in quite a while.
Oh, that's true.
John Ratzenberger as P.T. Flea is so entertaining. And he is a main reason that I loved A Bug's Life, even when I was a kid, when I liked the film, or I thought it was decent.
We were quoting him multiple times when we were first talking about this.
Yes. He has great comedic timing, and they use him well in A Bug's Life. What is he used for as Car 2? Mac, with only maybe 2 lines.
1 line.
What 1 line? Even worse. Yeah, I know John Ratzenberger was kind of easing out to just cameos at that point, but come on, he still had a decent character in Cars 1. He could have used him more.
They also waste the Richard Kind character who returns for the sequel.
Yes, I forgot about that. Thank you. Another character who is in A Bug's Life that they use far better in A Bug's Life than in Cars 2. I mean, granted, he wasn't that used well in Cars 1 either. It's just a kind of crappy character. But still.
Like another patron actor of Pixar. In a way, like a good luck charm.
Not as used as John Ratzenberger, but still. One who wound up playing Bing Bong. One of the characters that led up to one of the most emotional moments in a future Pixar film. We'll get to that very later. But it's okay. Because I still think, while A Bug's Life is boring, yes. While the protagonist isn't the best, yes. I will say, I like Flick more than Mater. Because while Flick may be boring, he's not an idiot. And he does come up with good ideas. You may disagree with me, Kirby fan, and I wouldn't be surprised if you did. But I like Flick more than I do Mater in this film.
Okay.
I think there might be more.
Oh man,
We thought there was going to be a short one.
If this is what you're giving to Cars 2, I am so hyped for Good Dinosaur.
You know, that's the thing. I don't think I may like. I think even if when I review Good Dinosaur and I still think it's trash, I might not put it on the bottom.
I mean, even if it's not on the bottom, that one just there's such a deep personal hatred of that movie from you. That's what I'm looking forward to.
But Cars 2 is getting more of a reaction than Good Dinosaur. Like, after seeing Cars 2, I don't think Good Dinosaur could be as bad.
Gotta say though, that's one hell of a runner-up.
Yeah. Either way, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, I like the protagonist more. P.T. Flea. The designs of the bugs are more distinct and better. The heart, the fact that I feel like they put an effort into this more. The villain, yes, the villain. Hopper's better. Hopper is 10 times better than Axelrod and Professor Monocle.
I love that name for him.
And not only that, but the 2 villains that are in it, Hopper and kind of Molt. Malt's not really a villain. He's more just like a sidekick of a villain. They work off each other, and they're hilarious. Monocle and Axelrod barely work off each other, and when they do, you don't know it's Axelrod, and it's just boring. At least with Hopper and Molt, they're hilarious together. They made me laugh. I had so much. I quote that that whole "do you understand me?" I said, "Do you understand me?" How can I understand you? Now tell me not to say another word. Remember that's fine.
Thank you very much.
That
for quoting
made me laugh. Now get the hook before I think of something else.
Okay, the hook is you're off the stage because for God's sake,
Watch goes on stage and literally hurls you off.
because for God's sake, we have another host in this podcast.
Do not open until Good Dinosaur.
All right, Wash gets it to me and you for Inside Out. No random.
All right, go ahead.
Oh wait, I do have a question. Rancid, how did you feel about what I just said? Because you're not used to seeing this passion.
Well, boys, there was a running gag of sorts between Paul Newman, a relevant subject for this episode, and his beloved friend Robert Redford, is that they would have a long-going, friendly, but escalating prank war. And one of these instances was that I believe it was something like one of them mailed the other a car, but put it in his fountain out in the driveway. Like a very good-natured ribbing stuff between legendary acting talents. So what I propose we do is that we find this anonymous director, whoever it is, and we crush all the Blu-ray copies in the world into a giant compactor cube, and we put that on his doorstep, and we ring the bell, and we get the fuck out of Dodge.
I like that plan. We'll execute
That's a good plan.
That's a good
All right.
plan.
Okay.
This is the new bottom.
You know what? That is another weird positive about Cars 2. It doesn't get much worse than this.
Wait.
We have a challenger, Kirby.
We have a challenger, Kirby.
I made that joke for you.
Thank you. So let me preface this. Which movie do I think is better between A Bug's Life and a Cars 2? The answer is simple. There's no way to actually determine which is the better movie. It is entirely dependent on who you ask and what their preferences are. I could totally understand somebody preferring A Bug's Life. I could totally understand somebody preferring a Cars 2. I don't know why I'm calling it a Cars 2. When I make this list, I am not making it with the mentality of which movie do I think is better. I am doing it on the mentality of which movie do I enjoy the most. Sometimes there's overlap. I don't necessarily think you can objectively do a best to worst list. I think it's impossible. You can do a favorites list, but not a best to worst list. However, I do think that there are certain movies that you could put into the category of best. I might not have been that crazy about Up, but if you were to ask me if I thought Up was one of the Pixar's best movies, yeah, I'd say yes. Is it one of my favorites? No, it's middle for me, but I would say that it's one of the best. I would say The Incredibles is among their best. It happens to be my favorite, but I think I could safely say it is among their best. Finding Nemo, same story. It depends on the movie, whether even if I don't like it all that much. So when it comes to which one that I think is better between A Bug's Life and Cars 2, my answer is The Incredibles.
I knew it.
Can I pose a follow-up? As someone who loves cars, which hurts you more? Seeing A Bug's Life, something that you hate but obviously don't really care about that much, or seeing a bastardization of one of your favorite Pixar films, a continuation that should have never been?
That's a good question.
I am going to actually follow that up. I fail a lot, but I try to respect movies that people really like. If you don't think that A Bug's Life is possibly my least favorite movie of all time, then I do a good job of hiding my distaste for that movie. I hate A Bug's Life. I despise A Bug's Life. There are so few things in A Bug's Life that I think make it a worthwhile watch. That was miserable. A Bug's Life made me more miserable than most movies that I have ever seen. I have not seen many movies.
Down for a maybe?
Now, that said, Cars 2, I'm very much in the opinion with you on it. I watched it. I really didn't like it. I thought it was hot garbage. I could take it or leave it. It's gone. I watched it. Whatever. But, Cars 2 is racist. And that is what makes this decision really difficult. You have no idea how badly I want to say Cars 2 is the movie I prefer, but it is racist. And A Bug's Life isn't. A Bug's Life doesn't have anything as mean in it as racism. And yeah, technically there's more things that I like in A Bug's Life than in Cars 2. There are a lot of more things that I really hate in A Bug's Life compared to Cars 2. Like, when I say A Bug's Life is among the worst, or my least favorite movies that I've ever seen, trust me when I say Cars 2 is right there with it. Regardless of my answer, they are right next to each other on the rankings for my least favorite films.
So it's a quality of shit versus a quantity of shit argument.
Yes. Which made this really difficult. What I ultimately decided, I did some soul searching on this one. And just as a story, A Bug's Life bothers me so much. Every note that Cars 2 doesn't make sense, but it makes sense in such a stupid way. Random said, "Oh, I was laughing at it, but for all the wrong reasons." In A Bug's Life, when it was revealed that the circus bugs were circus bugs, even though they had a brilliant plan, they still shunned Flick away. And what brought Flick back, I mean, it hasn't been that long since I watched A Bug's Life. It was Dot coming back saying that they were in trouble, so he went back to protect the colony, even if they didn't want him. Very noble. But what leads to this point? What leads to this point is a quote from the Queen that was, "I never thought I'd see the day an ant would put himself over the rest of his colony." Cars 2 does not have anything that stupid. But it's racist. This is so hard. Okay, you know what? I will say this. Ratatouille is vastly better than both of these.
Yes.
Okay.
So the thing is, I actually have already made up my mind. I'm just kind of going through the process here.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And
I'm just going to say, I don't remember the last time you've done this much soul searching, because it's usually Random and I that are really conflicted.
I had to do it really hard because so much of me did prefer Cars 2. But then I had to ask myself, was I okay with Cars 2 being this racist? And ultimately, no, I'm not okay with Cars 2 being this racist. Cars 2 is stupid. It is very stupid, and there is a lot wrong with it. But when I was watching it, I was bored. When I was watching A Bug's Life, the burn has not gone away. A Bug's Life, months later, still hurts for me to talk about. And I think, despite how evil racism is, on a personal level, I gotta say it, I do not like A Bug's Life more than Cars 2.
I mean, you could chalk it up to the broader history. I mean, like, all of the xenophobic shit in Cars, you could just chalk it up to the broader history of racial insensitivity in Disney animation. Like, you know what is a very beautiful animated film? Peter Pan. Do you know how uncomfortable that Make the Red Man Red scene is?
Oh yeah,
man, absolutely. Oof.
That's really uncomfortable, and that's been around since, like, what, the 50s? I had this whole conversation in my intercultural communications class, and yeah, Cars 2 did not do well with interculturally communicating. No.
It's horribly racist.
This is going to be one of those things that we are simultaneously going to try to leave in the dust and at the same time remember so that we can do better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Kirby fan, I fully
agree
respect
with
your
this.
decision. Or is that all you have to say?
Okay, so if I have to wrap up everything that I just said, if you want to skip to the Spark Notes version, as bad as Cars 2 is, I can leave it behind. I cannot leave behind A Bug's Life. The burn is still there.
God.
If this burn ever heals, I may change my mind. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon, just because I love Pixar so much. And I know I sounded like I was going to continue that thought, but that's actually the end.
I don't agree with that one. I respect it.
Yeah, same here. I respect
Thank
your
you.
decision. I completely disagree, but I can tell it really was a tough decision, and it was really came down to something personal, and I've decided things because of personal feelings. Heck, that's why I thought Toy Story 3 was worse than Cars.
Yeah, that's a good point.
This whole movie was exhausting.
It was very exhausting. Oh,
And
man.
I'm genuinely...
I was so happy when it was over.
Oh, me
Dude,
too.
Man, alright, so I know there's going to be a 3-point gap because I put Cars 2 above A Bug's Life, but if we're actually talking about a list, the gap between these movies, as far as how much I don't like them, is so minuscule. Cars 2 barely edges out over, just barely edges out over A Bug's Life.
And again, it's only for personal reasons.
It's, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can live with that.
Yeah, I'm...
Also, Ratatouille is like a million times better than both.
Oh,
I know I said that
Yeah,
already.
and I don't even like Ratatouille
I just
that much.
really want to reiterate the point. Ratatouille is a million times better.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Yep.
I mean, it's like Cars 2 doesn't make you want to cook.
Yeah. Cars 2 doesn't make me want to drive.
Cars 2 doesn't make you want to cook no matter how many cars get fried and destroyed.
I'm going to have cooked
right.
car for dinner tonight.
All right, Wash, time for you to do some math.
The calculations are here. And from the bottom up, Cars 2 at 31, A Bug's Life at 32,
Oh my God, 1 point.
Ratatouille at 36, Toy Story 3 at 40, Toy Story 2 at 44, Cars at 46, Toy Story 1 at 48, Monsters Inc. at 51, Wall-E at 54, Up at 57, Finding Nemo at 59, and The Incredibles at 60. I just realized this, and it's appropriate because it's the 12th episode. This is feeling like me reading this out feels like having to sing the entire 12 days of Christmas, and it just gets longer and longer.
Yep.
Oh, by the end, that list is going to be huge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This was... I love how you said that the discussion was probably going to be short for, for rankings, but it turned up being one of our longest ones. For both Kirbyfan and I.
Your watch was pretty quick.
Well, Watch was quick. And Rancid, you were pretty quick, too, compared to both of us.
I mean, only compared. I mean, like, this is like something that Cars does within us. It's a deep soul searching because no other ranking is quite as fraught. Last time, Kirbyfan, you were absolutely torn over having to place Cars quite so high. I mean, I know you wanted to, but at the same time, you were torn about like skewing the numbers that much. And this time, you've had to grapple within your very soul to try to excuse its many, many shortcomings.
And you did bring this point up, and I do want to reiterate. Cars 2, the only thing, the big thing that if I were to pick the racism obviously, but the other thing, you did bring this point up. I love Cars. As a fan of the first movie, this hurt. As somebody who really enjoyed Mater in the first movie, this hurt.
Oh, God, yeah.
My dilemma is going to be when we get all the way to Good Dinosaur, and I'm going to decide, I'm not going to be sure which one is going to be worse.
Well, that's an easy choice for me, but of course, as our motto is, we'll get to that when we get to that.
Speaking of getting to things,
It's time.
What's
Next, I don't even know what's next, honestly.
I think it's Brave.
It is Brave is next, number 13. We've infamously troubled history, Brave, but of course, we'll get to that when we get to that.
Thank you, Rancid, for coming once again for a Cars movie.
As always,
Pleasure.
Yes, as always, this has been a complete blast. Thank you so much in sharing the anger.
Yes.
Oh, no
We'll
problem.
get you back for Cars 3 probably, and we should probably
absolutely.
give him a movie he enjoys.
I did.
You know, I said I was willing to come back for Incredibles 2.
You stuck around for 3 movies. I mean, I'm assuming you're not going to like Cars 3 because why would you? You stuck around for 3 movies you didn't like. You deserve one that you do.
Yeah.
I am also 100%, although this is probably going to be like months in the future, I am willing to watch the shitty Elf movie when it comes out.
Elf movie?
Elf bowling?
Onward.
Oh, Onward.
Yes,
don't
Onward.
think-
Elf bowling.
I'm actually have high hopes for Onward.
I have
only
decent hopes.
Elf bowling.
We'll save that for terrible spective.
Yes.
But I'm actually the only reason I have high hopes for Onward is because both Chris Pratt and Tom Holland are in it, and know them from Marvel, and Pete Docter is now in charge of Pixarspective.
That's something we.
Pixar.
That's something we can.
Pete Docter is in charge of Pixarspective?
Yes, we know, and we have phone calls with him.
Pete,
Why do you think
thank
we're
you so much for giving us all this money. I'm sorry I didn't like Monsters Inc. as much.
It's alright. We liked Up, and that's okay.
And that's okay.
But
I'm
yeah.
sorry I didn't like Up as much. I really liked Monsters Inc. and that's okay.
We've just been informed that they pulled our budget, and we are now broke.
Oh, great.
Because-
Nothing's changed.
They just heard the last 2 hours, and they said we really wanted to sweep that under the rug.
Why you gotta bring up old ghosts like this?
At this point, we're just rambling. I think we should wrap it up.
Okay.
Yeah, we should.
Thank you so
Overall,
much.
Yeah.
This was fun, boys.
This was fun.
I'm happy.
I'm happy. I'm not happy after Cars 2, but I'm happy after talking about it.
Yeah,
it feels like
that's always the perk.
It feels like a great therapy session.
Thank
Like an
you.
engine block has been lifted off.
Exactly.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you'll come by again because we swear it gets better. Thank you, and have a good night.
Good night.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ka-ciao.
Ka-chinga, ka-chinga, ka-chinga.